Grace, peace, and hello there. And welcome to Podcast of the Whills, a podcast that treats Star Wars like a sacred text. I am your host, Nick Milkey, and we are here on Sunday night. I don't know if you've noticed, it's a little more festive in here than it usually is, which I'm excited about and is going to feed into our conversation tonight. And I'm so excited to be hanging out. This is one of my favorite things to do, and a highlight of my week is to get to hang out with my weird space friends, as my beautiful wife Laura calls them. And so that being said, I want to shout out, we've got a bunch of people in the live chat already. I see Seth, I see Framey, I see Brian. I know there's going to be more people joining us coming up tonight, and we're going to have a bunch of fun. I've got an amazing guest that I can't wait to talk to, learn a little bit more about, and we're also going to get into a really fun top 7 list, which is Christmas ornaments. I love Christmas. I love Christmas ornaments. We have spent the better part of the weekend decorating our house. We put our tree up. Actually, we have like 8 trees in our house. Most of them are small and not real, but we did put the big real one up in the middle of the living room, which is exciting. We put the lights up on the house yesterday, and I will be honest, I was at my peak Clark Griswold at the top of an extension ladder, wearing a vest and a ball cap with a staple gun, trying to decide if I drop it, would I try to catch it and fall off the ladder in the process. Thankfully, none of that happened, and the house is lit for Christmas. The girls are excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get to our guest, I do want to plug t-shirts, because that's what we do here. T-shirts are available. T-shirts, because of Black Friday and the weekend and all that good stuff, are on sale right now at TeePublic. In fact, I always forget to put this up on the screen. The link is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you don't have a Podcast of the Whills t-shirt yet, this is your chance to grab them. They're only $13. The Dad Bat shirt is on there. The Spark of Positivity shirt is on there. You will notice in the middle, we have the new logo we've been using lately. I want to shout out again to our amazing friend Pete from around the galaxy. He made that logo for us. And it's a great way to lead up to the Book of Boba Fett, which of course we are all excited about. So go to tpublic.com/user/WillsPod. You can get all that stuff. If you are watching live tonight, it's on sale, I think, until midnight. So grab one before time runs out. If you're listening on the replay, we'd love for you to still grab one, or we usually try to tweet out when there is a sale so that you can get those and also not miss out on the fun. So t-shirts are out of the way. We're going to move away from that, and we're going to come back to why you're here. You're here to hang out and see our amazing guests, talk to our amazing guests, hear from our amazing guests. My guest tonight is Mr. Mark Perez. You know Mark probably from Pink Milk or the After Dark crew that gets together on Friday nights, and I love hanging out on Friday nights in the steam room, adding my random comments and commentary to that. I know Mark also has some other podcasts that involve Star Trek, I'm pretty sure. So we're going to let him talk about that, and as we get to know him. But it is an honor to welcome to the show tonight, Mr. Mark Perez.
Hello there.
What is up, my friend?
How are you?
I'm excellent, and I'm so glad that you joined us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
So tonight, we're going to do what we normally do with the show, which is a lot of times I do a guest cocktail, and I'll make a drink, mixing with, the guest and a funny name and a little graphic and all that kind of stuff. But what I decided to do tonight is, instead of making a cocktail, we're going to have beers, because one of the first things, maybe even before I realized that you were a part of the Pink Milk crew, was I linked up with you on the Untapped app, which is for beer people to keep track of the beers that we drink. And we have this list, and you can check in and take pictures and all that stuff. And I love that app. I love craft beer. I love beer. I've been a home brewer at times.
Nice.
And so when I made the connection and put 2 and together, I was like, oh, that's Mark, my beer friend. And he's on, he's a podcaster. And so all of those worlds kind of swirled together. So we decided we were going to do some fun craft beers tonight. I know that you live out on the West Coast and have access to a lot of different fun beers. We are getting more and more fun beers on my side of the country. In fact, I spent last weekend in Asheville, North Carolina, which is one of my favorite places to visit in the country. And Asheville has kind of become the East Coast capital of craft brewing. New Belgium has built a plant out there in the last 5 or 7 years. Sierra Nevada built a plant out there. I had hoped to go visit the Sierra Nevada plant while we were there this trip, because I'm told that it's kind of like the Willy Wonka of beer tours. But thanks to COVID restrictions and some of that cool stuff, they're not doing tours. Their tap room isn't open and all that stuff. So I had to pass for
Oh,
this time. But there's also so many great local breweries. Their Highland Brewing Company, which is a favorite of mine, was built in Asheville in like the 90s and is now run by the daughter of the man who founded it. And she's the first craft brewing head CEO, like, you know, has kind of done some groundbreaking thing. I think she's
good. Yeah.
I think she's Korean. And so like there's all these, you know, setting precedents in, you know, expanding the beer world, which we
Yeah.
all, you know, are excited for. So tonight, first of all, I should probably put our picture up. Let's do that. This will be really silly. Normally I name the cocktail after the guest, but since we were doing beers, I decided to name the establishment after my guest. So what we have is we have Mark's Blast Pints Tavern.
I love
And
it.
I don't know what the look I'm giving you is in this picture, but we are clearly in after a hard day of trooping, and we're at Mark's Blast Pints Tavern because blast points are a key part of the Star Wars world. These blast points are too small for, you know, Jawas. So we're going to have a blast pint tonight. So again, this is why I shouldn't have access to things like Photoshop.
I love it. That's great.
It's creativity run amok, and maybe not always in the best way. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're having beers, and one click too soon. I am going to show, I'm having tonight, this is from Wild Leap Brewery, which is in LaGrange, Georgia, which is just up the road from me.
Yeah.
And this is called Birthday Month because they celebrated a birthday earlier this year, and it was a limited release collector's edition. This is a barrel-aged cake and ice cream stout.
Nice.
And I love a dark beer.
Yeah, same.
It also clocks in at 10%. Mm-hmm. So by the time this show's over with, we're going to be ready to go. So I'm going to get this going here. And it is nice and dark. Might look a little bit like a Coca-Cola. I can assure you that it is not.
Yeah, I love myself a good dessert stout, though. Those are awesome.
Absolutely.
Sure
so that's what I've got going. What do you have going tonight?
So I've got something from a local brewer out of Santa Cruz called Humble Sea, and these guys, they started out. We literally had some friends in from out of town, right? My partner, one of his childhood friends, was in town. We got to meet his then soon-to-be fiance, now wife.
Excellent.
You know, love those guys. And we saw this little kiosk there. And we took a chance. You know, oh, look, there's some beer, right? We tried it out. I'm like, who are these guys? Like, this is fantastic. Like, it was just such a surprise to just walk up and just have some fantastic beer from this little kiosk. And the next thing we know, it's like about a month or two later, they opened up their location. And since then, they've just blown up, right? And all their beers are usually themed like for like Harry Potter or Star Wars. So this one in particular is called Super Pops, and it's called Pumpkin Delight, and it's a smoothie series. But I do want to show you just an example of like the other stuff that they have, like Kook I Am Your Fogger, and it's double dry hop foggy double IPA.
That's outstanding.
So I had to show that.
Well, at least. I can tell that you and I have a beer podcast in our future already.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I'm going to raise my glass and cheers to you, sir.
All right, and I'm going to pour this bad boy.
Oh, he's still pouring. I got ahead of myself.
It's all good.
Well, while he's doing that, I see some more of our friends have shown up. I see Raven. I see Mr. Rez. I see Pete. I see Loki Gator Apocalypse AJ, which is one of my children, popping in before bedtime to say hello. So cheers to you, my friend, and thanks for hanging out tonight.
I forgot how good this thing was.
I was just thinking the same because I've been holding on to these for a special occasion.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, it's one of those things. LaGrange, Georgia is just a hair over an hour away from us, but we can't get distribution for these guys yet in Montgomery.
Yeah.
Because of all our distribution stuff is kind of funky and it has to go through the major companies, even for the craft breweries. And so a buddy of mine was through LaGrange like 6 months ago and just grabbed like everything he could and brought it back. Did a little Smokey and the Bandit style, bootlegging that beer back.
Love it.
Absolutely. So as we get started tonight and as we're enjoying these delicious beers, let's start off. Tell us just a little bit about Mark in general. Tell us about who you are and just give us a rough introduction.
All right. Well, I'm Mark, obviously, and you usually can find me on Friday evenings with Brian, Emma, and Chase on Pink Milk After Dark, where we talk Star Wars queerly. And of course, I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek, Lord of the Rings. I love films in general. I
Hmm.
just that's been one of my passions. Just I think just my whole life, whether it be movie reviews that I loved reading, and then I started dipping into that a little myself at one point, but then just stopped. And um, comic books as well too. Absolutely love
Okay.
comic books. Yeah. So yeah, if you don't find me at a comic book shop, you'll find me at a brewery. If you,
Hmm.
if you don't find me there, you'll find me at the movies. But I just in general, and I live in San Francisco now, which is where I
Okay.
originally was born. I had lived in San
Okay.
Jose for most of my life, and we just moved back up here earlier this year, and I'm loving it because there's so many good breweries around me here. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's just insane. There's something to do every night of the week if you want to find good beer out here. And it's just nice to support the local ones too, because there's obviously a lot of people that put in a lot of good work out here. And then even just the local beer scene, the people are super chill and super like awesome to be around. Um, so yeah, between my partner and I mean, we've had so many beer adventures, especially when we go traveling. It's like we make it a
Uh-huh.
point. We go traveling somewhere. My partner David will look up the breweries ahead of time, and he goes, "Okay, we're gonna go to this place. We're gonna go to this place,
I
right?"
love
And
that so much.
and it's cool because it's like he's my little partner in crime, in that we get to go to these places and try out all these
Hmm.
different beers together. And luckily, we have about the same taste in beer. Although it took me a long while to get into sours, though, I'll tell you
My wife loves a sour. That's one of her favorites, and I will
yeah,
drink them. But it's one of those. I always say one of my deals is I don't like my sweets and my savories to be mixed. So like I
yes,
don't want a beer that's too sweet or too, sugary. I want it to taste like beer.
yeah.
And so a lot of times those sours will get, they'll stretch into that territory if I have to work at it to drink it.
Yeah, I know exactly. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good sour now, but yeah, it gets to a point where if it's work, it's no longer fun, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's a lot of stuff. And then as well as I love going to conventions. Obviously, I
Hmm.
cannot wait to go to Celebration and meet some of you folks out there. It's going to be awesome because there's so many people that I've interacted with since Chicago that I didn't know then, and now
Hmm.
we'll all get to be together in the same room and
Yeah.
geek out together. Yeah, it's
I'm
gonna be
anxious
awesome.
for that because I didn't originally have tickets. So now I'm waiting for them to hopefully re-release tickets
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
score tickets to come. I went to Orlando in 2017 and was just there for the day. I tell this story all the time. A friend of mine drove down. We drove down to Orlando from Alabama, spent the night, went the very first day, hung out, was completely overwhelmed, like not at all prepared for, I know I need more than just one day.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then Chicago didn't work out. And so then with, pandemic and all that stuff, like I just wasn't prepared for California. So I didn't
yeah,
have tickets the first go around. But honestly, kind of like you said, in the time and everything that has taken place, the way this show has grown and changed, the people I've met, like I desperately want to try and get there.
yeah.
In fact, I'm even entertaining the fact that if for some reason I don't land a ticket, like I may still try and come and just like
Yeah.
I'll sleep in a rental car or something just to get the chance to meet people and hang out and have that
Yeah,
experience. Because
exactly.
especially over this last year, this world has meant so much to me the same way it has to so many other people, um, in being able to connect. And, I make the
Yes.
joke all the time. The steam room is a lot like Force Connect has become on Fridays. And especially during lockdown, it was the bar that none of us could get out and go to. We could all get
Yes.
together, have a drink, laugh,
Yeah.
chop it up with each other and be silly and have a little bit of relief from everything that we were all dealing with. Um, so yeah, so I'm really hopeful that I can work something out for Anaheim. And again, I've threatened several people, if I make it, everybody's getting hugged. I don't care what happens. Like I will be
Seriously,
so
right?
happy to see these friends
Oh.
that, we're all going to have to get over our issues about personal space for at least the first time we all run into each other.
Indeed, indeed. I was going to tell you, by the way, I love your collection. Obviously, I got into Star Wars at a very young age, so the
Hmm.
old, you know, Hasbro stuff, everything, and Kenner stuff.
Yes.
I mean, the Kenner stuff from like back then, just obviously was a big deal growing up and everything for me.
Yeah.
You have the Death Star set, which was
I do. It's right
one
over
of my
here over my
favorite
head.
things. My favorite Christmas
Um,
memories was the night that my brother and I got that,
that's
and we
fantastic.
stayed up almost all night putting that thing together and playing with it
Well,
because
that
just it
that one
was
is
so
perched
magical.
very precariously on that shelf. It still needs some repair. All
Yeah,
the little struts where the levels connect, a lot of
yeah,
those are snapped off, so it's sitting there, and as long as nobody touches anything, we're cool.
yeah, yeah.
But it's an accident waiting to happen, and that's the same thing for me. Like I was born in '78, so I grew up
Yeah,
with those toys. And a lot of them I didn't necessarily have. I had tons of He-Man stuff,
yeah, yeah,
and Star Wars were the two main things. Was never really into GI Joes, but as a grown up, none of my stuff survived into my adulthood. So I'm recollecting, the things that I
yeah.
wanted to have. And so primarily my collection is vintage stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that if I come across, R2D2 is my favorite. So anything R2D2, I'm
Nice.
going to grab. But like, every time there's new Black Series and vintage collection releases, I'm like, that's really fun, but that's not for me.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
the exception being the retro collection. I have gotten all the waves of those,
Nice.
um, because they're a nod to those originals. And I see Andy in the chat from Hollow Chronicles, so he's listening to all the collecting things and figuring out ways to chastise me later for, not being into Black Series. But something that he and I share is I'm also a big fan of the artwork,
Yeah.
and so I've gotten some posters. I've got the Ralph McQuarrie portfolio from Star Wars that has all the little individual,
Oh yeah.
concept art
Yeah.
prints, and I've framed some of those. In fact, this one that's also over I always do this wrong, this shoulder, I got this for $10 on Facebook, and it's a Nathan Hamill print
Oh,
that he
nice.
signed, and somebody
Yeah.
was selling it on Facebook for $10. And so it's a
Yeah.
scene from Empire, which I love. So I love collecting, and you've got some great stuff in your background. I notice it every week when you're on Fridays. And I'm always like everybody else, I'm up close trying to figure out what is that back there, seeing what
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
has. Um,
I love it because that's the other thing too. Having moved into this new place, I was able to get the setup how I've always wanted it and have my collection behind me because I thought, well, this will be fun. It's like you get to make it, unlike the other place, everything was like so
that's right.
tight and so it was great to be able to set it up this way because it's what I had envisioned moving into this place, and luckily it all worked out.
That's fantastic. Well, as if I didn't have enough stuff crowded in behind me, I put 2 Christmas trees in just to, add to the festive nature
I
of it
love
all.
it.
So talk a little bit about this. You mentioned Star Trek, and you mentioned,
Yeah,
of course, I know you've got another podcast that you do some Star Trek stuff on.
yeah.
Talk about, as a Star Wars fan, finding podcasting and kind of coming into that as another expression of your fandom.
Okay, so it's funny because a long while ago, I had met some folks that were part of a podcasting network out of the UK, and that just prompted us to, spin off and do our own podcast. And I started doing my own with a friend, Mindy, and we did a movie review podcast back then. And that's when I started getting into podcasting. And then once we stopped doing that, I guested on a lot of different shows. So that was fantastic. And, I got to learn how to interact with folks online and how to do that. And obviously it was super rough at the beginning. When you're starting out, you don't quite know what to do. And then over time, eventually, you just get your podcasting legs and you realize how to interact well, how to do certain things, and so forth. And then eventually, like, we get to this era now where, like, I had guested on other people's shows and everything, and then Brian reached out to me and asked me if I would like to, do this roundtable. And that's when we were back in Mandalorian season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And those roundtables just connected me with, other queer Star Wars fans. And we were able to like talk in a way that I just had never been able to express myself. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until it happened.
Sure.
Right. And so it was so fantastic. And I'm so lucky that that opportunity came my way. Right. Shortly after that, then Brian reaches out and says, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing the show. It's like Pink Milk After Dark. It'd be you and me and Emma." And it just all came together. And at first I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for a live stream. It's like I've never done this before. It's like it's one thing when you're just audio, right? You can get away with
That's right.
Whatever, just like something goes wrong and everything. But when you're on the spot, it just changes everything. And then I thought about it, and I'm all like, "What are you doing? Just do it. Just take the leap, right?" And I did, and I'm so happy I did. And it's just been awesome getting to interact with folks in the steam room, and then obviously recording with Brian and Emma, and now we've got Chase on board as well too. And it just, I love it. It's just it's so great to be able to express ourselves on there the way we do and talk about the things that Star Wars that we love. So
for sure.
And then not just guesting on other people's podcasts as well too, like given the opportunity to be on here. My friend Dallas, who he's part of the Bad Motivators, he's the one that has the Patreon podcast, Taking a Number Two, which is a Star Trek podcast.
Gotcha.
And it's me, Steve, Catherine Neen, and we'll just discuss the movies or the latest episodes or just what we love about Star Trek in general too, because as much as I love Star Wars, Star Trek has always been kind of hand in hand. The other one that just like was there that like
absolutely
made our love for sci-fi and fantasy that much bigger. It caters to a different part of me, and I love that. It's just like I can go to it, and it's just a certain something there. That Star Wars doesn't have. Not that that's knocking. It's just it gives me what I need, and then this other thing gives me what I need. So
they're very different, and of course, there's the overlap in it being sci-fi. There's the overlap in it being, iconic and big, but they do channel some very specific paths. And I grew up with Star Trek because my dad's a huge Star Trek fan. And like I came to sci-fi through my dad. Both Star Trek, Star Wars, those are kind of the main things. And then of course, growing up, it was stuff like, the A-Team and Fall Guy and, all these other, shows that floated in and out of that action adventure, genre. But Star Trek was something that early on, I just gravitated to Star Wars more. I have an appreciation for Star Trek, and I grew up, I've seen the original series, multiple times. I've seen Next Generation because that was when I was growing up.
Right.
As a kid, the movies. I mean, there are a few things better than the voyage home and all the funny stuff that happens when they're in San Francisco. I use the description all the time of colorful metaphors when people talk about curse words.
Right, exactly.
On the bus and they're having the whole deal with the guy on the radio. Like, I love that stuff. And of course, I make my, in fact, I just tonight watched the episode of Rebels with my girls about the Purgill, and I couldn't help but make a joke about the whales from Star Trek.
George and Gracie, yes.
George and Gracie. Like, it was this whole thing, how do we know he didn't invent, transparent aluminum and all that stuff.
I love it. That's it's one of the more quotable ones, right?
The computer mouse, when he picks up the computer mouse and says, "Hello, computer," and they're like, it's just classic. And so I grew up with those things, and I have an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with Deep Space Nine. I'm not familiar with the newer things that came after that because I was probably in high school and college. But honestly, the J.J. Abrams movies, those reboot, I enjoy those movies. Like, fun. I think they're a lot of fun.
They're a lot of fun.
And that's what movies, even in Star Trek, and here we are preaching to the choir. That's what it's supposed to. I mean, in Star Wars, that's what we're supposed to do, is have fun with it. And so, my approach to those new Star Trek movies is what I think most of our approach to Star Wars should be. But we all get so wrapped up in the thing that we love so much. It has to be loving. Mark, Brian's calling me out right here.
Like, of course.
Talk Star Trek. But it's so good, and it is a part of my childhood, and it's a part of my growing up, and especially being connected to my dad. Like, it's an important thing for me to have Star Trek and have those connecting moments with it. So I'm glad that's a part of your journey as well, and a part of, being able to do those shows. And also, I think there's another thing that's interesting, and this came up recently, maybe even in the text conversation that I had with Brian. What we see in Star Wars, and a lot of times Star Wars has been playing catching up in recent years to inclusion, diversity, not only being one woman in the galaxy, which was Carrie Fisher for the first 3 movies and that kind of stuff. But Star Trek, and I think partially for the time it was a little bit earlier than Star Wars, was ahead of the curve on a lot of that kind of stuff, especially when it came to racial diversity. Gene
Oh yeah.
Roddenberry was very
Yeah.
outspoken, as to say, this is, outer space and other galaxies. Like, of course, people are going to look different. And
Yeah.
Kirk, of course, is going to kiss everybody, but he's going to
Of
kiss the
course.
alien too, and so for you as a queer person, did Star Trek have some, was that, there certainly had to have been some impact for you even at an earlier age with that, in that story?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because now I think it's more prominent than it was then. You got little things here and there, because it was just the times, right? That acceptance and just seeing, queer characters on screen wasn't so common. But over time, I mean, now it's like on Discovery, you see it more and more.
Sure.
They show the Orville, which is the love letter to Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Where they have two male characters that are together, and it didn't even skip a beat. It was so natural and so well done. So it's fantastic to see these things now. I mean, it too took its time, but it's already there. It definitely has taken the leap. So yeah, I love
Absolutely.
that. Right.
That's right.
uh,
All our secret Trek fans are showing up because we flashed the Trek signal into the sky
right,
on a Star Wars night.
exactly.
That's all right. It's a safe space. You're allowed to love both, and we're fine with that.
Indeed.
Well, so one of the questions that I always ask my guests, or have started asking my guests, is, we often talk about origin stories, and for me, and especially with a podcast that likes to treat Star Wars like a sacred text, my question for you is, Mark, what has been your Star Wars spiritual experience? It could have been the first time you ever saw it. It could be something that happened. What is that moment where, of course, you've always loved it, but it hits you in that deeper level spiritual way? What has been your Star Wars spiritual experience?
I'm gonna have to go back to my little green master Yoda, because
Okay.
he is the one for me that those lessons, obviously, you take them in when you're younger, but as I got older and I looked back on them and I revisited it, and it started to make more sense, just what he said, and like about being in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And about the that is why you fail, because you don't believe, those sort of
Right.
things. That to me is what I took forward with me. And as I started growing into adult, those lessons just took hold, and I realized, I was like, there's something there. I mean, listen to what Yoda has said, and apply that in your life, because it became, in that sense, it became much more important to me as I got older. I was like, oh, it's great. I love these movies and everything, but there are lessons there to be learned. And
Mm-hmm.
so I absolutely love that, because I took that with me, and it helped shape me to be a better adult and to just look at things in a much better light.
Absolutely. And Yoda's one of those ones that growing up didn't super do it for me. I was,
Yeah.
I was always R2 and Han Solo. Like, those were my two guys.
Yeah.
Han Solo, because I could be Han Solo. He was the guy that didn't
Right.
always have it put together, but it worked out somehow.
Yeah.
He was Indiana Jones, and that was the other thing.
Yeah.
I didn't have special force powers, but I could make it up and use simple tricks and nonsense, as Han Solo says,
Yeah.
to get through a situation, to deal with something. So I always gravitated to those two. And so in recent years, thanks to the Solo movie, I love Chewbacca so much more than I ever did
Oh, that's
growing
cool.
up.
Yeah.
One, because of what Jonas did, but because what we got in just that character in that movie, and the formation of that friendship and all that kind of stuff. So I love Chewbacca, and I've always loved all of them, but just having a different affection. And Yoda's the same way.
Yeah.
And honestly, so much of Yoda landed for me with The Last Jedi and the
Oh yeah.
conversation with Luke sitting
Oh.
on that log. And I say it
Oh.
almost every show. As a parent, we are what they grow beyond. That is the
Yep.
true burden of a master. That's me as a dad raising 4 daughters. Like, I want
Yeah.
them to be better than me. I want them to go farther than I did. I want them, and that's the thing, is my burden is I have to let them go, and I have to let them grow and experience. And so hitting that, and then hearing people like you talk about Yoda. Mark Thompson talks about Yoda all the time.
Yeah.
And I hear it in a new way when I hear these people that have this deep appreciation for Yoda, and I'm going, man, I missed the bus on Yoda. Like, I'm playing catch up now. But that's okay, because we
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
opportunity to our tastes evolve over time, and what we
Indeed.
notice evolves over time. So I love that so much, that's your spiritual moment with Star Wars is Yoda. And just, again, it seems like the funny fortune cookie wisdom, but like it's so deep and it's so good.
It is. Yeah, and I think all of that, I'm going to bring it around because all of that and everything that I carried with me, and then to see that character pop up the way he did in Last Jedi, because I had no idea, right? I did my best to stay from spoilers, and then when he popped up on screen, I completely lost it. Because it just, to me, I was like, oh my God, he's back, right? And then just to hear those words again, it's like, Luke may be, you know, older than dirt now, whatever, but you still got a lot to learn, you know, and Yoda's here to teach you, you know, and he's not perfect, but he's letting you know that he's not perfect, but he still has lessons to teach you. And it was just so great to hear what he had to say. And it was, I'm never going to forget that moment.
Yeah. And then so we get it in that moment, we're reeling from the shell shock of it. And then as time goes by, we find out that it was Frank Oz and that they did a physical puppet and all the other things. And you're going, it just keeps getting better. Like this is what nerds of my level love, is to find out behind the scenes, the real guy. And that's why it was so good. And that's why it felt so natural. And, you know, I love that. And that's a big part, you know, I love behind the scenes, anything. And so, you know, the director and the Jedi, that, you know, is the behind the scenes documentary for Last Jedi, when they talk about that, and they kind of contrast the differences between the Yoda we got in the prequels, which was super computer, super CGI. And then we're like, let's use the original mold and recast it and, you know, make it again. I love that kind of stuff. So that's a fantastic spiritual moment. You definitely pass the shibboleth, as it were.
Nice. A word that I remember from The West Wing, actually.
Absolutely, without a doubt. See, this is why you're my people.
Nice.
The West Wing. I'm waiting for my chance to do a West Wing podcast too. So
awesome.
I've seen that show more times than it's probably comfortable to say out loud. Like, it's my comfort show. It's my Mount Rushmore of TV shows. Is the metric I always use, and it's West Wing, it's Sopranos. If I'm mixing genres, it's 30 Rock, because I just love 30 Rock and Tina Fey so much. And then that fourth spot, I mean, probably Deadwood, but I feel like I've leaned really heavily on HBO stuff. But we hit that stride where that was where TV took a turn and became cinematic and powerful and all that. But West Wing is always going to be number one.
Oh yeah. Totally agree.
So let's do this. Let's jump into our top 7 list, and this is a lot of fun. I threw it out, and I love throwing the possibility of a top 7 list to a guest to say, hey, what are you really into? What do you want? Because you threw this out there without missing a beat. You're like, here's one. And it was way better than if I had said, you know, top 7 characters or top 7 whatever. Like, this is great, and it's outside the box, pun intended. Because we're all decorating for Christmas now. So we are going to do, there's us again. We're going to do Mark's top 7 Star Wars Hallmark Christmas ornaments. I love this so much. As you can see, I did bring my Star Wars tree out to my studio. We have, and I said this in the intro, each of my girls has a tree in their room.
Yeah.
We have a Starbucks tree. Nice. Because each year Starbucks does a little coffee cup ornaments. We don't really actually drink Starbucks, but at some point early in our marriage, we got one and realized it was a seasonal thing. So we get one every year, which reminds me I need to be looking for the one this year. So we have a tree, and we've been married 16 years, and there have been a couple years where there was more than one. So like we have probably 20 Starbucks ornaments. So they get a little 3-foot tree. My wife collects the little old world kind of blown glass looking Christmas ornaments. So there's a tree for that. We have a tree in our bedroom that's all silver and white. I think last year we started the Star Wars tree because as I continued to just, you know, grab things. So this is very seasonally appropriate for a lot of reasons. But we have Mark's top 7. And then we get to the end of that. I did put a poll out on Twitter earlier this week and asked if anybody had some favorites. So I've got a few favorites to share, and then I'll share a couple of mine as well. So we're just going to jump into your number 7, and you're going to tell us why you picked it, what you love about it. And it's an easy, lovable ornament, but it's our boy BB-8.
It's BB-8. Because, I mean, come on. We love our droids, right? what is
We
Star Wars
definitely
without the
love our
droids? The
droids.
droids are so important, but I love that this character was introduced in The Force Awakens, and we all just loved BB-8 from the get-go. From the moment we
Yes.
saw them bring it up on stage, when when
Hmm.
it was in its infancy and things were coming together, people just were like, "Oh my god, I love this new droid!" Right? And
Yeah.
so I had to put it on the list.
Oh, it's an easy entry onto the list. And in fact, somebody tweeted today, or maybe it was yesterday, but I think it was today, that, however many years ago, yesterday or today, that very first teaser for Force Awakens dropped.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they linked it, it's that minute and 25 seconds, whatever it is. But pretty quickly, you go from Finn waking up in the desert, and the next thing you see is that shot of BB-8 rolling across the desert or
yeah.
across Jakku, right there. Um, and I remember seeing that and be like, holy crap, what is that? Like the excitement. And like you said, and for it to roll out on stage at, was it Comic-Con, I think?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah,
I think it was. I
a
think it was
little
San Diego
fuzzy in the
Comic-Con.
details now.
Yeah, but it rolled out, and of course,
Yeah,
everybody's like, "Oh, it's a real thing! Like they made one. It's just isn't computer magic." And I think
yeah.
that sealed a lot of the excitement for this movie when
Yep.
it was going to be coming out. Well, that is a fantastic number 7 and a wonderful entry into this list. So as we see that, and we move on to number 6, this is so funny. Lego Darth Vader with his Christmas sweater on.
This one is actually new. I just got it probably not even a month ago. There's also a stormtrooper with a little Christmas sweater as well too that I bought. And I had to put it on the list because I wanted to put new favorites on here as well, right? I mean,
Yes.
it speaks for itself. How can you not love it, right? And it's Lego, so
Hmm.
which I love collecting. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love this. Frank and Amy said Amy has a BB-8 and a Santa hat that was a Walmart exclusive back in
Oh,
2018.
sweet.
That's fantastic. Well, and I love this because one, first of all, the swagger that this Darth Vader has as he's strutting across in that sweater, like he is owning that sweater. It doesn't matter if Lego Palpatine's going to make fun of him in a minute. But
Exactly.
what it does is, and this is another thing, I came in the other day from work, Friday afternoon. I came in from work, went and got a Christmas tree on the way home so we could decorate and get the tree put up and all that. And my girls, I've got twins that are 13, a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And the twins, one of them loves Star Wars. The other one is not super into it. Although she's working on it. She's watching Rebels with us right now.
Yeah.
But they were flipping through, putting different thing on TV, and they put on the new Lego holiday special. First of all, I've only seen it now a time and a half because I was watching it while I was working and doing the tree and all that. I love the Lego Star Wars stuff because it's its own version of weird, quirky. Like Lego Emperor Palpatine is the robot chicken Emperor Palpatine, and that's what I love about it so much.
Yeah.
And so just looking at this image that you have brought,
Yeah.
which is Lego Darth Vader with his little strut, like he's so excited to be wearing this Christmas sweater, but he's in around the corner and Lego Palpatine is just going to rip him a new one over. What are you wearing? It's a whole vibe, and I'm totally here for it. Yeah, Lego Star Wars has become such a great little positive side trip into fun Star Wars and all that kind of stuff.
I love it. I love it. And that's why I'm eagerly waiting for December 1st to hit because I have my advent calendar ready to go.
Yes, I
Because
haven't
I've been
gotten
doing
one
it for
yet, but
3 or 4 years now. So
yeah, I have 2 days before December 1st, and I have to say, if I run into it somewhere, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
grab it. Yes.
Because every year I watch other people doing it, and I go, "Dang, I don't collect Legos, but why aren't I doing that? Like, it's just
Right.
fun." And then I see these little teeny tiny X-wings and teeny tiny Wampas, and I'm like, "See, I need that. I don't have anywhere to put it, but I need it."
Right.
So Lego Darth Vader is a fantastic number 6. Let's jump into number 5, which is the Christmas Stormtrooper.
I love this one.
Now I want you to talk about this, and then I have a follow-up question that I just formulated. So
Okay,
tell us about this selection.
So this one, I want to say, I had a friend who had posted it online. I said I have to get that, right. Like the moment I saw it, it had to be in my collection. I love it. Candy cane, instead of a blaster, you got your little package with the Imperial symbol at the bottom. His Christmas hat. I mean, it's just everything. And if I remember correctly, you can press a little button on it and it makes noise and whatever.
Okay.
But I love the interactive ones like that, where they'll have
Yes.
little sayings or you hear sounds from the movie, that sort of thing. Those are usually my favorite ornaments. So Yeah.
Well, and that reminds me, just as we're saying this, and as we talked about Star Trek a few minutes ago, my dad always had growing up the Hallmark Star Trek Christmas ornaments,
Oh,
and like
nice.
one of them was the landing shuttle that plugged in,
Yes.
and like you plugged it into your Christmas lights, and you pushed the button, and it
Yeah.
was Spock saying, you know, such and such and such and such, Merry
Yeah.
Christmas and live long and prosper. Like it had a little thing, and it lit up.
I think that
I
had to be
think
the
there was,
Galileo, I think is the name of the shuttle, but I might be wrong.
yeah,
But yeah,
that's
yeah,
exactly right.
yeah.
And it had, oh yeah, Pete has this one. He put a picture, I put up on Twitter earlier. He's got the Christmas Stormtrooper.
Nice.
But yeah, my dad had that one. I think there was a Klingon bird of prey. I'm sure there was an
Mm,
Enterprise. And the way they did those back in the day is they weren't necessarily battery powered. You pulled a light bulb out of your string of Christmas lights and plugged your Christmas light
yep.
into it, and
Yep.
it was run. The power was run in line through the whole deal.
Yep. I have a Vader like that that says, what was this saying? The force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a
Uh-huh.
Jedi yet. As soon as I turn on the TV, it does this little saying, and you have to plug it into the string of lights. So
Yes, absolutely. So lots and lots of fun. So here's my follow-up question about the Christmas Stormtrooper. Last
sure.
year, it was a little bit controversial. They released the Black Series Christmas figures, and they had like the trooper that looked like, honestly, I have a Ryobi battery powered leaf blower that looks exactly like the blaster big honking thing that he had.
Yeah, yeah.
A whole little series of Christmas figures that came out last year. Do you have those? Do you have any feelings about those?
They're ever so slightly hideous, but I love that they put those out. And there were people who loved them, right? And that's
Absolutely.
like that's it became part of their collection. They weren't for me necessarily, but it's
That's
just
right. But it's
it's
fun.
fun.
It's hard
It's
to get
fun.
mad at
Yeah,
that kind of
it's
fun.
fun. It definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's a totally fair judgment, and I'm right there with you. So number 4, we have Queen Amidala, and
Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't require an explanation, but you put it on the list, so we're definitely gonna let you talk about it.
Yeah, no, I remember back when after episode one came out, I just absolutely loved the costumes that Amidala had. And obviously this became so iconic, and when they released it, I was like, well, there goes, another one for my collection. I have to have this. So, but I love
Yep.
it. I love it. I wish there were more, honestly. Like one of my other favorite Amidala outfits, which the Pink Milk family knows very well, is like I love Snow Amidala from like
Uh huh.
the Clone Wars, just that
Yep.
outfit. I would love to see that a little more often.
No
I think
doubt.
it's one of the best.
Well, and does this one light up?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately. But the way that the little,
That the light's
like little
hitting the
gems,
little
yeah,
thing,
it,
and
it
that would have
makes
been
it
a
look
great
that way.
opportunity for them to make this one a light up because of the way that dress looked
Exactly.
in the movie, and those orbs,
Exactly.
had an internal light situation happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another something that I didn't appreciate at the time when this prequels came out, because of course I was that right age where I kind of crapped on the prequels for a while, and
Yeah, I hear you.
thought I was better than that, and then realized I was wrong.
Same.
But the costuming, and especially the costuming for Padme throughout the entire thing,
Oh yeah.
these queen dresses, all just the elaborateness of it, the intricacies of all these costumes, just it really is fascinating. And like, I know they've done books about it, and I love when I see behind the scenes footage or shots of the amount of work that went into doing it. It's a true craft, and it's a true love of the art for the costume designers, who never get any recognition, who never get any screen time other than their names at the end of it somewhere. But somebody poured their heart and soul into this red dress that had light up orbs in it, and it was a vision that somebody had, which is just phenomenal. um so that was number 4. Number 3 is the
Yeah.
AT-AT with the snow speeder. This one I didn't know existed, and I'm going to
Yes.
be doing some deep eBaying soon because I need this one in my
Me
life.
too. This still remains one of my favorites. And if you press the little button in the back, then you hear the sounds of the adit as it's moving along,
Mm,
and it battle sounds and all that. But it always has remained one of my favorites. I just can't. I just never got over it. I was
yeah.
like, I,
Oh,
I was going to say, there's also a Han with Tauntaun as well that I got about that same time as well too, that I love as well. But this one
mhm.
is just, it's a beauty.
Yeah. I'm with Pete. I need this one, and you said it made sounds like that seals the deal right there. And you
Yep.
said that about the sounds and talking about Pete. One of his questions that he asks a lot of times if he does his 10 questions list is, favorite Star Wars sound effect. An underrated sound effect for me in Star Wars is the sound of the walkers walking
Yes.
across Hoth. That creaky, clumpy, powerful, like
Yeah.
that sound is legit, and it's right up there with the scream of a TIE fighter, the
Yep.
ignition of a saber. Like it. I don't give it enough credit, but
Yep.
it's
Yeah. I mean, that sound design is
um,
just so incredible. You hear, you know exactly what it is,
yep.
and that's
And
the
when it
beauty
gets
of all of
reused
this.
now in something like Rebels or Clone Wars, when
Yeah,
there's a walker present, you're like, it's right there, and it brings that same chill up your spine that it did when you saw Empire the first time
indeed.
and didn't know what this thing that lumbered out of the fog was that, was just huge and terrifying. Um, so that's an excellent number 3, which means the next 2 have to be phenomenal. So number 2,
Brian was
as
waiting
called
for this
for,
one.
Brian called it. He said, Mark, you've got 2 left. Show me those Max Rebo minis. So we've got Side, Snoodles, and Max Rebo.
Oh yeah. I mean, I may love The Empire Strikes Back, but Return of the Jedi is my favorite. I've seen it the most out of all the films,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, the band. I mean, that's one of the things I remember from when I was a kid. I just when I got these, I want to say that these were part of a set that my friend Francisco gifted to me one year for my birthday, and he just gave me a whole bunch of Hallmark, old school Hallmark Star Wars ornaments, and this was part of it. I was just
Mm-hmm.
beside myself. I couldn't believe that what I had been given, and they go up every year. So
Absolutely. And you're saying that just it's cluing in only because like I've had half the week to sit with this list and know your choices and all that kind of stuff. But you said the word Hallmark like 3 times in the last 45 seconds, and it hits me that like that's a specific thing. Like you can go to Walmart and get Star Wars Christmas ornaments. You
yeah,
can go get
yeah.
like Hallmark for a lot of years with a lot of different licenses,
Oh
just
yeah,
not Star Wars, Star Trek, Disney, all that. Like that's its own thing.
it
And I
is.
grew up,
Yeah.
my mom worked at a Hallmark store at one point. My mom to this day kind of rues and struggles with the fact that there really aren't Hallmark stores anymore. You can get some stuff
Oh yeah,
online or
yeah, yeah.
produce it under the banner, but like going to a Hallmark store at the mall, we lived an hour away from where I live now. And I grew
Mm.
up in Selma, Alabama. And if we wanted to go to the mall, we came to Montgomery because the mall in Selma just didn't have that much. We didn't come to a mall in Montgomery without making a trip through the Hallmark store, regardless of whether we needed it or anything. Like, so Hallmark, like Star Trek, like Star Wars, has been an integral part of growing up, and Christmas
Yeah,
ornaments and cards and all that stuff. And so it's neat that there's a connecting point with something, 2 things that we love. We love Star Wars and we love Christmas decorating or
yep,
decorating for the holidays. And that Hallmark has kind of been one of those central figures in the midst of that. And so when you're
yeah,
saying, to get all those ornaments, I saw several other people online. I think Adam Frazier posted a picture of all the ornaments that he has, and he has them all in the original boxes. My parents
yeah.
always kept theirs in the original
I keep the
boxes. Do you have your
boxes too.
boxes?
Yes, I
That's
do.
outstanding. I love
Yeah,
that so much.
yeah. I mean, luckily, my partner David, going back to the Starbucks ornaments, I mean,
Yeah.
he's just very much into coffee culture as well too, and so the Starbucks ornaments and cups are like a huge thing for him, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and he also loves the Hallmark ornaments. He likes to go to the stores for the events and everything, and he became part of this club online as well too, so that he gets
Mm-hmm.
special ornaments from time to time. So between the both of us, we know if something special is coming, we'll make it a point to get it, and it
I
becomes
love
part of the
that.
collection.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep my eyes peeled. I think the best location we have here, a physical locations, we have a Kohl's store.
Uh,
And Kohl's has Hallmark stuff. And I was in there the other day, and they had is there a Lego Stormtrooper that's wearing a Christmas sweater? I think they
yes,
had that one.
it's the little
Um,
blue sweater. Yep.
yeah, but what I'm hoping to run across, and I probably missed the boat, I'm hoping to run across that Boba Throne ornament, which I know I've seen some other folks have
Yeah.
posted up. I may have missed the boat on that, but I'm still keeping the hopes
Yeah.
alive that I'll run
No,
across it somewhere.
I actually was able to get one of those, but I didn't buy it for myself. I bought it for my friend Chris Hall, who's in the UK, and there was no way he was going to be able to get it, so I got it for him, and then I sent it to him. So because he loves Boba Fett, and I was like, I gotta get it for him,
Yeah,
So
it's just cool, and it's very in the moment because I'm also
Yeah.
one of those ones that for the era I grew up, like Boba Fett was neat, but I wasn't super into Boba Fett, and that episode in Mandalorian season 2 where we realized, oh, he really is the best bounty hunter in the galaxy. I'm like, now I'm all on board. Let me see more,
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But so we have Cy and Max for number 2, which means we've only got one left, and we're going to jump to that right now. Your number 1 are the Ewoks.
Woohoo! Yes, I love these guys. I have another pair of Ewoks as well too. They're a lot bigger, but these little guys, I've just always loved them. I love that, that you got a little baby Ewok in there, which unfortunately the spear is in front of, but I mean, I love me some Ewoks. So they were going to be on this list one way or another, but I just figured I'd pick the little cutest ones to show, and then they, of course, made it to my number 1.
Absolutely. And that's another one of those things that growing up, I loved Return of the Jedi. I probably watched Return of the Jedi more than everything else, even though Empire's my favorite movie because I was the right age.
Yeah. Same thing.
When Empire or Jedi came out in 83, I was, 5, almost 6 years old. So like I was at that age to be really into it. I caught up with Star Wars and Empire as I got older. And so it's kind of my original memories of Star Wars were Return of the Jedi and the Ewoks. And I was just the right age for it. Like, it's perfect. We've got some new folks jumping in. I see Chris just showed up. I think I said Andy's here earlier. Glad to see everybody. Thank y'all so much for hanging out. This is so much fun. And that's an amazing number 1. And I think like you said, it's tied to your personal connections with Jedi and Star Wars. And it just makes sense that would be your number 1. So what I did, I put a tweet out earlier this week and just asked, did anybody else have any favorite Star Wars Christmas ornaments, new Star Wars or Christmas ornaments, whatever. I told them to drop some pictures. We'd put them on the show. So we got a couple of responses. And so I wanted to share those.
Nice.
The first one comes from our friend Pete at Around the Galaxy. And Pete put this one up actually just this afternoon. And it is a chrome looking Millennium Falcon. I did see at one point in a tweet, he said that it's heavy and he had to find like a sturdy branch to put it on.
That's right. You have to. That's the heavy ones. Like a tree just dies.
That's right. Otherwise it's just diving to the ground. So I love this one. And of course, I'm automatically attracted to it because I love the Falcon.
Yep.
And, it's just one of those, again, icons of Star Wars and our fandom and all that kind of stuff. So that one's awesome. The next one is from Hope. And Hope tweeted this earlier this week, and I've been purposely drinking my beer away from the camera because I have this same ornament in a pint glass.
So great.
And it makes me so happy. I use it year round. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas time. There was one of these, I think it came from Target. There was a 4-pack of winter Star Wars pint glasses. And so there's one that's like kind of a white and blue, and it's got a walker on it, and it says something, and there's like a Merry Sithmas one with Darth Vader. I forget what the 4th one is, but this has always been my favorite. And so when she posted this ornament, I think she said she got it for like $1.50.
Yep.
So when it showed up immediately, I was like, this is the glass I will be using on Sunday night. No questions about it. So that's an excellent choice. And then the third one, that we got online is from our friend Michael Nip. And Michael put up, he said he has a bunch of licensed ones. He said, but his favorite ornament is actually this one that his daughter made for him a couple of years ago. And he put all 4 pictures, and I had to share all 4 pictures because it's fantastic. You've got Yoda, BB-8, Darth Vader, a huge Death Star. It says Star Wars. Like, I love this so much. And it reminds me of, I have a drawing that I've saved on my telephone that my oldest daughter Harper did for me probably, 4 or 5 years ago, a little just pencil drawing of the Millennium Falcon. And I'm saving it because I'm going to get it tattooed on my body at some point because I love it so much. It's Star Wars and she made it. Like everything about it is just, it's a win. So Michael wins for sentimentality by sharing this amazing ornament that his daughter made. Now I have, and of course I've got my little tree behind us. Actually, there's 2 on here that are not Star Wars. We do have a Wally World mug from Christmas Vacation, and I have a leg lamp in the box up here.
Yes.
from
I have to go
Christmas
dig
Story.
mine out actually because I have that downstairs. I need to go get it in a little bit.
But I think my favorite, and I pulled it off the tree. It's
Oh,
3PO. My mom gave this to me a couple years ago. She's like, "We've got this, bring you a little
yeah,
3PO." It's just 3PO's head,
that's
but of
fantastic.
course,
Oh my god.
and it says like,
I suggest a new strategy, R2. Let the Wookiee win.
Perfect.
I am C-3PO, human-cyborg relations. They shut down the main reactor. We'll be destroyed for sure. This is madness. There'll be no escape for the princess this time.
like it has all the phrases, and I don't know if it shows up that far back,
Yeah.
but the eyes light up.
Guys, I love that. I now I need that. I need to go look.
And this one, like most of mine, get packed up in a box and get put away with all of our Christmas stuff. But this guy lives on this shelf behind me when it's not Christmas time because I just love it so much.
Rightly so.
And
it's funny you do that because
just,
there's certain ones I have like that don't get put away. They're just so perfect that you can just add them to your collection and they look fantastic amongst all the other stuff, right? So.
and again, it's all the good classic, Star Wars New Hope 3PO lines,
right?
And they use the same voice sample. They didn't get somebody else to do it. It just brings me so much joy, and especially as somebody who didn't always super enjoy 3PO, like it makes me so happy that I have this ornament that lights up and does all that kind of stuff. So it's one of my favorites. And like I said, I've got all these other ones. In fact, I don't know if you've seen these. I saw this at Walmart the other week and I was picking up some stuff. They have the little mystery ornament deals, and they come in like a little black hexagon shaped container. And
and those are at Walmart?
Yes, they're at Walmart.
I like
and
that.
Like
that's
$4 or $5 a piece. And so there was a Luke. I got 3 of them just to see what I would find. And there's a Luke, there's a Leia. And then there is of course I managed to score a Yoda.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Actually, maybe that's Baby Yoda. Now that I look at it, I think that's actually Baby Yoda.
Who knows? But yeah.
But in that fun kind of pseudo anime Funko Pop kind of style.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got Din, we've got Grogu. I actually did get this one. This is the last one that I'll take off the tree as I take my tree apart. I did have to pick up the Clone Wars Yoda.
Oh, perfect.
And he was another little Walmart find. And I think they are a Hallmark brand that Walmart carries. So it's just one of those. I love Christmas. I love decorating for Christmas. I love Star Wars. So when these two things get to marry together one time a year, it's just fun. Like it's fantastic. So I have to say thank you for bringing that topic up to the fore, because like I said, I would probably come up with something really boring and unoriginal. And you're like, I got you. We're going to do Star Wars Christmas ornaments. So to everybody that's watching in the chat, I'm going to put a post up after we get done and try and do this a second time. Let's do a little thread of other Christmas ornaments. I've seen some other people tweeting them unrelated to us doing this topic tonight, but let's do another thread. Post your favorites. Put some things up that you like, ornaments, decorations you have. It could be some weird. I have this. We had some sort of family craft time a couple years ago. And so I painted R2 with a Christmas hat and decided that it sits on my shelf like the R2 or the 3PO head most of the year, but at Christmas time it gets to come sit next to the Christmas tree. So thank you for that choice. That was an amazing list. I had so much fun doing that.
Sweet. That was fun. I'm glad we got to talk about that.
Absolutely. Well worth sharing some Christmas joy, even here at the very beginning of the season. We can just get it started on the right foot.
Yep.
Well, let's do this. We're about to wrap up. We're about to get out of here. But before we do, tell us where we can find you, anything you've got coming up. Give us all the good plugs.
All right. So you can find me on Twitter at I am El Diablito, and also on Instagram. And then on Friday evenings, Pink Milk After Dark, where we talk Star Wars queerly with Brian, Emma, Chase, and myself. And also, you can find me on the Bad Motivators Patreon network, the show Taking a Number 2, which is a Star Trek podcast with Dallas and Steve and Catherine on there. And sometimes we have other folks that hop in and out of the podcast from time to time. We actually just did one about the first episode of the new season of Discovery. So,
Excellent.
and talked about all the new truck ahead because there's a lot of stuff coming soon. So
That's right. We're in a golden era, not only for Star Trek but Star Wars. All the things we've got coming up. There's so much fun stuff heading our way. Well, I can't thank you enough for hanging out tonight. I can't wait for the opportunity for us to have a beer and West Wing podcast where we can talk about all these other things that we love so much. But this has been so much fun. I love getting a chance to hang out with you guys on Friday night in the steam room. It really is a lot of fun, and it helps me connect with people who are different than me, and I think that's really important. And I encourage anybody who's listening to the podcast, anybody who's watching right now, if you're not checked into Pink Milk, if you're not checked into the steam room and the Pink Milk After Dark on Friday nights, get there. It's some of the happiest, most fun, silly, like let's get down and dirty with shipping and clothing and all the different things. Like it's some of the best fun you can have on a Friday night, hanging out, watching shows on the internet. So I highly recommend that. Thank everybody for hanging out tonight. Thank you to everybody in the live chat. We love y'all. We appreciate you. If you're listening on the podcast version, we encourage you to find us on all of our social medias. We are at Whills Pod pretty much everywhere. YouTube.com/podcast of the Whills. You can go check out t-shirts at the TeePublic. That's what it's called. TeePublic page. We'll try to tweet that kind of stuff out. But most importantly, thanks for being a part of Podcast of the Whills. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of this fun group, fun opportunity for me on a Sunday night to talk to people that I love and respect and just have a great conversation. I really appreciate it. In theory, I had said a bold, dumb thing in that I wasn't going to do any shows in December. I was going to take the month of December off. We were going to kind of relaunch in January, do some new, different, fun things. That's kind of the plan. But I know me, and I'm going to miss hanging out and talking to people. So we're probably going to do something. So keep your eyes peeled. I don't know what it looks like yet. I don't have anything planned for next Sunday or the next little bit, but it'll probably happen. So keep your eyes peeled, hang out, be fluid, loosey-goosey. We may do a call-in show. We may not. I don't know. But I know that I'm not going to be able to go a month without hanging out, talking to my friends. But in the meantime, if I don't do anything until January, thank you for being a part of this family. Thank you for supporting us, hanging out, watching the show. And most importantly, I hope everybody has a fantastic holiday season. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. And I wish you nothing but the light and life that comes with the force of others, as we hear in Rogue One. So until we are together again, whenever that might be, may the force of others be with you always. I forgot to hit the button. This is a great way to end.